I just want to say that probably if it was up to each of these playwrights, this may not be the set that they would have chosen. Just kind of go out on a hunch. However, it is fairly cool that we get to share the stage with a current world premiere play, a brand new play that Trinity is currently producing on the stage. So I think it's a good way to tie in what we're doing here with Trinity's commitment to new work on the stage. And so and to me personally, I was really enjoying finding the interesting connections that having a play set on Mars or some foreign planet mashing up with like a living room. It really made some interesting connections for me in ways that I was not really anticipating. So that was kind of fun. So think about that, audience, because I will like to hear your opinions and your thought on this as well. But I think some introductions are really in order to put some faces with the work. So if we want to start by just give us your name and your play's title, and we'll take it from there. We'll start nice and slow, all right? How's that sound?
I'm Benny Williams, and I wrote the first play, Star-Crossed.
I'm Tyler Demola. I wrote the second play, Trouble with Kids.
I'm Kim Dalton. I wrote the play You Saw, Little Voice.
I'm Ella Turner, and I wrote Madame Cedar Walk is Wonderful.
So as we know, and as some of your plays demonstrated, there are lots of different ways, especially there's lots of different pulls on high schoolers' time. So why did you choose playwriting? Like why did you join playwriting?
Well, my wonderful teacher who's here right now,
No way.
in my advanced acting class, decided to do a unit on playwriting. So my whole class wrote a lot of plays and participated in this.
Well, we're so glad that you did, and thank you. Let's give a round of applause for that.
Well, I took a playwriting course over the summer at Yasi, and I still had that passion in me, so I wanted to write another play.
I like to write anyway, and I had an idea at like midnight, and decided to type it out and submit it and see if
How appropriate.
It was a really snowy weekend in February, and my internet wasn't working, and I needed something to do, so I found this somewhere.
Yeah. So honest, and I love that. Let's take a minute and talk about because I, for one, really enjoyed seeing, there were no two plays that were alike. Each was very, very different. Whether it was like sci-fi or, satirical or really character-driven or historical or like a bio piece, right? So I'm curious to where did you pull your inspiration? Like why did you feel the need to tell these particular stories?
In my case, I really wanted to kind of confront death in a new way in my piece, and I wanted to talk about it in a way that I hadn't seen before. And I knew I wanted the character to die at the end. That was pretty much the first thing I decided.
Sometimes it's helpful to start at the end.
That was the ending shot with the sunrise coming up and him taking off his helmet was really the first thing I came up with. And from there, I was just trying to work back and make a story of it.
I'm honestly just like, I think it kind of came, I don't know how it came to me actually. Well, I kind of, okay, I'm going to make this comment. So I was on like Instagram, and I lost a follower. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And then I'm like, this is good, it's inspiration. So, and then I started writing. And at first, like, even though I was writing, at first I wasn't writing about like Instagram or social media or whatever. It was totally different, my first draft. And then I started to like look at it. I'm like, I want to tell more. Let me use my past experiences, and I put this into it. And then I just kept writing. It just kind of rolled and came to be, I guess. Yeah.
I started off with this idea that I had buzzing around my mind for a while of personifying somebody's anxieties or demons or something like that. And I tried a couple of different stories, but this one seemed to fit the best with who was telling the story and who was playing who we saw the most. So I just kind of took that and rolled with it.
I was reading my history textbook, and my
process. So as a refresher, like once, this is a unique competition, right? Because as soon as you're selected as one of the winners, the work's not done, right? And then you get me emailing you constantly with all these different and weird requests, and you have to go through more drafts, right? But I'm curious, what has been either the most challenging or the most rewarding part of this whole experience?
Well, Tanara worked with us on, or at least with me, on improving my piece, and I think
Tanara's the dramaturg.
For Benny.
Yeah.
And she helped me find some things and ways I could improve my piece. And I think it was really nice to see how I could have changed it and developed it more and found even more meaning in something that I already had grown up.
My dramaturg was Philippa. There you are. I learned the power of like adding and taking things away, like how it can really drastically change a line or change the way it's going to be acted out. And yeah, it was a great time to see my play through somebody else's eyes because I had it in like set way the entire time. But I worked with Philippa. That was great. I got to see kind of new aspects of my play.
My dramaturg was Rodney. And I think the most interesting part was talking to other people and seeing how they had interpreted my character. Playwriting is weird for me because I do a lot of short stories, and you have a lot of control when you're writing those types of things because you can tell them what they're looking at and their descriptions, and you have control of all of the reader's senses. But with playwriting, you can only tell them what they're hearing, and you have to leave that to other people in the reader to really, and the viewer, to understand what's happening. So it's kind of cool to see how what I'd written would be interpreted by people when I had so little sensory control.
I worked with Jordan. I don't know if she's here right now. But the main thing we worked on was killing some of my characters. So that was, I sort of learned about like keeping things concise, which was really helpful. And sort of keeping details to a minimum and stuff like that. And it was really helpful. I think the most interesting thing was seeing it perform because there were things that I didn't think the audience reacted in different ways. But I thought they would and stuff like that, and things that people will remember from the parts. So I like seeing it perform.
That's great. Like a few of you have mentioned that, well, I'll put it this way, like theater is really special, right, as all of us in this room kind of know, but it's unique in the sense that it really is truly a collaboration between playwrights, and then you have to send your baby off into the world and see it kind of rocked up by a director, or brought to life maybe is a nicer way to put it. But was there, and then the audience is also invited into the equation, right? And so it takes all these people, directors, dramaturgs, actors, and audience, not to mention all the wonderful people that have been locked in a hot booth all day, like bringing like lights and sound to this. As you were watching, do you see or notice any surprises, or like, oh wow, I never even thought that line meant that, right? But that's how it was received in this particular moment and by this house, right?
Yeah, when I wrote my piece, it was very more strictly drama, but I really loved the way that the actors and director put some more comedy into the play that I hadn't even seen a possibility for. But I think the way they performed it really added more life to my play and just made it more fun to watch. And I was really surprised, but also it was a nice surprise.
I was thinking the same way, like my ending scene, no one's just like going on the bed. Like it was supposed to be like very like silent in my mind. It was silent, dramatic, and she was like going at it. But then like we had the police officer who I wrote as a man.
Surprise!
Yeah, you guys put it as a comedy scene, and I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, it was great. Yeah.
It was funny to see the relationships of the characters on stage as played by real people, because when I was writing it, I kind of had this like idea in my mind of how it would turn out, but it's so much more real on stage and seeing actual people saying the lines.
Yeah.
So it was just, I mean, a lot of it was surprising in how the lines were delivered and the reactions were a lot of what I hadn't thought about. Like the that was really awesome to see.
Yeah, when I wrote to try to include a lot of humor. So it was really good for me to see how that sort of played out. So I think in the future that's something I would work on with my plays, trying to make it funnier. Because it's a really serious topic, so it's important to have sort of, comic relief as you go along. And yeah, my character, I'm sure she had a great sense of humor.
Speaking of that, and this will be our final question before we really open it up to all of you. Okay, if you could ask one question of any of your characters, what would it be, and to who, I guess? It's a tough one. It's a tough one. We can start from the other end of the line if you want to break. You've been going first.
Yeah, sure. I'll keep you breaking.
I would probably ask her his advice about turning 18 and going to college and stuff like that and becoming grown up. Yeah.
I think I would probably pick Conscience's brain because, I don't know, she's inside this guy's head. It would kind of be funny to see like what that is like, and like I would want to see probably more of that story and how it played out.
I think I'd probably first I'll ask them to edit my Instagram photos. But I think I would ask Lisa about her past, because we never really got too much into Lisa. Because when I was watching, I noticed I gave a lot of the lines that stuck with people to count. I want to know more about Lisa.
I think I would ask my spaceman how he got to another planet, because I don't know about you, but I'm trying to make Star Wars a reality. That information really has some.
Maybe he's not the best person to ask. All right, now, any of you have any questions or thoughts or images that really stuck with you that you want to share, or anything that you want to send up to the stage?
Do any of you have plans at this point to develop your pieces from a 10-minute into more full-length, or is this simply, this was this project, now on to the next one?
You guys hear that?
I'm submitting mine to Boston Slam and to the Kennedy Center, and I'm also going to try to extend it for the local theater and the GAM. Well, the GAM has like a 15 pages. Make it fun first, but yeah, that's my plan.
A few pages at a time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think mine is going to stay short. I think the story fits the best in the window that I give. I feel like I entered the next step at the right time, but I feel but
I feel exactly the same. I wouldn't lengthen it at all, because with the 10-minute play, everything happens so fast, and when it happens that fast, everyone's like on a roller coaster ride, and it's so fun. So I feel like lengthening it wouldn't have the same effect. So.
I don't think I want my main character to live that long. I think the short story suits the situation. I think it'd just be kind of like, oh, come on, die already. I think it's a fitting one.
Good. All right. Yep.
So what have you guys learned or taken away? What kind of skills that you think you'll apply to your next piece that you're
Any takeaways?
I think one thing I learned from this experience is, like, I think you were mentioning this earlier, you really do take a big leap when you write a play, because there's so much that's out of your control. And I was a little scared about that, about how my play would turn out. But I really enjoyed the eventual performance, and I think it kind of comforted me in that way to think, like, there's a beauty to letting it free and seeing what others can do with it. And I think that's what I'll take away from this experience.
That's a good thing to take away.
For sure, something I'll take away is always have faith in your work, because when I entered it, I didn't even think it would win. I didn't even give it like a fighting chance. I'm like, oh, you know. And like I showed it to a teacher of mine, and she totally just smashed it. She was like, this is awful. And I was like, I'm so awful. And I went to my mom, and I was crying to my mom. She's like, honey, you'll be fine. Find success with it somewhere else. Thanks, Mom.
Good.
I think just like the process separating what sounded kind of awkward and what flowed well, I think that's going to be something that I can apply to my photo look and like play with a little bit.
This is similar to what you said. I'm pretty sure this is trademarked, but just do it.
Good.
You mentioned earlier the criteria that the judges use to initially rank the work. Can you tell us what that is, what those were?
Yeah, sure. It's everything from, well, there's the strict criteria, so it has to fit a certain length, right? And then it has to, it's ranked on a scale from 1 to 5, and then each of the categories are kind of tallied for a total score. And so it's ranked on everything from stage ability, like is this something that could be brought to life on a stage, to the kind of the believability of the characters, so character development, and kind of like the story arc. Does it have a beginning, middle, and end? Does it feel like a complete piece? And so all these things are then kind of like tallied up in a numerical way, but we don't want to just mathematize like these student work, and that's why we brought in the second phase. And so we take the mean of those 3 scores and then bring the top 10 or 15 into the room with us, and then really have a vigorous debate about each piece. Which is very fun. It sounds terrible, but it's great. It's great.
It's such a nice mix of,
Right.
of plays, say there's a nice flow as well. So
Yeah, and that's true, and that's.
into your thinking about which one you
Yeah, and that's something I do try to keep in mind. What does it feel like as a festival completely? We don't want to have too much of the same genre, the same variety. So that does play a part in the selection process as well. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Yeah.
Are any of y'all working on a wiki set?
I watched the one about Watson and Crick, so they discovered the DNA is double helix. And it was really cool, and they had like a female scientist, which was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working on a couple of short stories, not so much anything playwriting, but you know, it's,
Not currently.
Same boat.
I am done with this. 8 drafts later. Great, yeah, final.
As this lovely lady in front of me said, that there was a nice mix of different plays, and as Ella said, she might want to add in a little bit more comedic relief, but personally, I might disagree, because I think there was a nice mix, and I don't think everything always has to be like, because there's been plenty of things that, you know, maybe weren't funny, but still held a lot of power.
Absolutely, absolutely. There you go. Okay. All right, thank you all for coming and showing your support for this next generation of playwrights. Before we go upstairs, however, I do want to have some opportunities for a photo. We have certificates and frames and awards to give out. And I want you to join me also at this time in welcoming we had 2 honorable mention playwrights as well. And I know and Olivia, did you make it? I don't think I saw you. I want to give this to you, so congratulations. All right.